Flicking through stories you wouldn't believe. Cold case trails and courtroom scenes. Whispers from the grave and media dreams. Truth is stranger, hearts beat faster. In the shadows of a news disaster. Scrolling deep where secrets hide. You found the stories time won't deny. Headstones and headlines, the tales collide. Justice and mystery, side by side. From backwoods clubs to breaking news lines, you shine a light where the silence lies. Oh, headstones and headlines, you dig where the truth won't die. Small town rumors and urban fear, a voice for the lost who can't speak here. Through every name, through every case, you hold the truth in a steady place. Cameras roll but justice lingers. Truth unravels through careful fingers. You tell the story, speak their names in a world that's quick to look away. Headstones and headlines, the tales collide. Justice and mystery, side by side. From backwoods crimes to great night trials, you trace the echoes through every mile. Oh, headstones and headlines, you dig where the truth won't die. Some run from the dark, you walk right in with a question and a camera lens. It's not just a crime, it's the lives they led. The voice is still talking from the books unread. Headstones and headlines, the veil is thin. Truth gets louder when you begin. With every view, with every line, you bring the forgotten back to life. Oh, headstones and headlines, you dig where the truth won't die. Yeah, headstones and headlines, you tell the stories that time can't hide.
Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. I hope everyone is having a good day. I had a tiring day. It was quiet but tiring. And the weather is amazing. It was raining this morning still, but it cleared up, and even though it was a little bit windy, the sun was out, partly cloudy. Just fall is finally back, and I am super excited for it. So we are going to, I do have some updates about the Marcy trial, and I did find out that media is only allowed to record the opening and closing statements. So the testimony will not be live streamed. However, one of the Syracuse news stations has a live blog where they give, kind of like Twitter, but they're not using Twitter. So they're giving updates, describing what witnesses are saying, things like that. So we'll get through that. But anyways, as I was getting ready to try to find updates about the correctional officers on trial, I saw that they had a news conference today about a man they arrested for intentionally starting the Palisades fire. And if you don't remember the Palisades fire, I believe they said, I listened to just some of it, I believe they said 6,800 buildings were destroyed, 12 people lost their lives, and it destroyed, it was just massive. And when you hear about this, I think he's 29, this 29-year-old, he's not a good person. He actually used ChatGPT to help him come up with a scenario. I mean, he is crazy. And it took them 8 months to finally arrest him, but they did not stop investigating since it started. So that is what we're going to start with. I do have the not really updates, but the mom and the sister of one of the girls who was killed in New York subway surfing spoke out. And then the last two stories that I have are about animals. One is about a dog, one is about a cat. So I don't foresee it being a very long live, probably not as long as my 2 hours, my usual live streams, but we'll see where it goes, because I always say that and then it ends up being 2 hours. So let's see who's here. I did see Team Britt was here earlier. Not sure if she will be able to come back. Opal, thanks for being here. Nanny. Oh yeah, one last reason. They're so good. I hadn't heard of them either. And my sister, this was years ago. I mean, this was back like 2008, 2007. My sister won tickets or something to one of their shows. And she's like, oh my God, you have to hear this band. And ever since I've been hooked. So definitely check them out. It is One Less Reason is the name of the band. Hey, Connie, aka Sister Karen. Thanks for being here. Hey, Glow. I hope you are enjoying this weather too. It is so nice out. Although we're under a freeze warning. They're saying a low of 27 tonight. Or not tonight, tomorrow night. Tonight is only supposed to be like in the low 30s, which is still kind of cold. Hey, Evil Queen. Thanks for being here. Sinner, Ocean Tide, drive safe. All right, so we're going to get started. So the first thing we're going to start with is the press conference that took place earlier this morning. And as I said, I only listened to a little bit of it. Got rid of myself again. I will mute during this, and I'll just chat with you in the chat. Oh, somebody's doing something outside. It's very loud. I'm not sure what is happening. Okay.
Good morning. I'm Bill Asaley, the acting United States Attorney for the Central District of California. Today, we are announcing the arrest of 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderknecht for igniting a fire that ultimately burned down the Palisades earlier this year, killing 12 people, destroying more than 6,800 structures, both homes and businesses, and damaging over 1,000 more buildings. The complaint unsealed today charges the defendant with destruction of property by means of fire, a felony that carries a mandatory minimum 5-year federal prison sentence and is punishable by up to 20 years in federal prison. The defendant was arrested yesterday on a federal criminal complaint near his Florida residence, and he's expected to make his initial appearance today in the federal court in Orlando, Florida. I stress that the complaint contains allegations and every defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. The allegations in the affidavit are supported by digital evidence, including the defendant's ChatGPT prompt of a dystopian painting showing in part a burning forest and a crowd fleeing from it. And we're going to put that up on the screen here once we get that going. The allegations are, there it is. That's from his ChatGPT. That's an image he produced a few months before the fire started. It shows the city being burned there. The allegations are further supported by the defendant's cell phone, his false statements to law enforcement, and his behavior during the Lockman fire, which the defendant is charged with maliciously starting shortly after midnight on New Year's Day of this year, and which eventually became the Palisades fire. Late last New Year's Eve, Rinderknecht returned to Pacific Palisades after working the evening shift as an Uber driver. Two of his passengers told law enforcement that he appeared agitated and angry that night. After dropping off a passenger in Pacific Palisades, Rinderknecht parked his car and tried and failed to contact a former friend. He exited the car, walked up a nearby trail, took iPhone videos at a nearby hilltop, and listened to a rap song whose music video including objects being lit on fire. The defendant had listened to this song and watched its music video repeatedly in the days leading up to the Lockman fire. 12 minutes into the new year, environmental sensing platforms indicated that a fire had started. It took the defendant several tries to contact 911 to report the fire. He fled the scene in his car, but turned around after passing fire engines driving in the opposite direction to fight the fire. While the Lockman fire burned, the defendant walked up the same trail from earlier that night to watch the fire and firefighters, using his iPhone to take short videos of the scene. Although firefighters suppressed the blaze, the fire continued to smolder and burn underground within the root structure of the dense vegetation. So that fire started on January 1st, and it smoldered underground for about a week until on January 7th, heavy winds caused this underground fire to surface and spread above ground, causing what became known as the Palisades Fire, one of the most destructive wildfires in Los Angeles City history. Law enforcement got to work and by January 24th had identified and interviewed the defendant. During his interview, he lied about where he was when he first saw the Lockman fire, claiming he was near the bottom of a hiking trail. Geolocation data for the 911 calls showed that he was standing above the fire in a clearing merely 30 feet from the blaze as it rapidly grew. As the world watched in horror as the Palisades fire burned, victims perished in the smoke and flames. Homes where cherished family memories and belongings were turned to rubble and ash. The iconic Pacific Coast Highway along Malibu looked like a war zone. Thousands of people were forced to evacuate. Though homes and businesses cannot be rebuilt, this arrest, we hope, will provide a measure of justice to all those who were impacted. We're going to do questions at the end, and we're going to get into more detail, but I want to thank the outstanding partnership we had in getting this case to where it's at. Thanks to the work of the ATF and investigative support from both the LAPD and the Los Angeles Fire Department and the U.S. Forest Service for their hard work in this investigation. I'm going to turn it over now to Kenny Cooper, who's a special agent in charge of the ATF Los Angeles Field Office.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Kenny Cooper. I'm the special agent in charge of ATF's Los Angeles Field Division. Today marks a significant moment in a long road to justice for our community. After more than 8 months of tireless, meticulous work, I stand here with our partners, proud to announce an arrest in connection to the devastating Palisades fires that claimed lives, destroyed homes, and shook this community to its core. Jonathan Rinderknecht, age 29, residing in Melbourne, Florida, was taken into federal custody by ATF special agents, a Los Angeles City Fire Department investigator, and a Los Angeles police detective. This partnership and arrest is significant in the three agencies working hand in glove to get this investigation to where it is. Rinderknecht, as the U.S. Attorney mentioned, is charged under Title 18, 844F, malicious destruction by means of a fire of real property owned by an organization receiving federal financial assistance. I know this community has endured a long wait for answers. Families have carried an unmanageable grief, and an entire community has been left to heal while living with questions. Although we cannot share every detail of this investigation, it is still an active investigation, and judicial proceedings remain ahead. I can tell you this, from day one, ATF and our partners have been relentless. We made a promise to find answers, and we have kept that promise. To give you a sense of the work, I want to highlight the extraordinary level of cooperation between ATF and our partners. The Los Angeles City Fire Department, the Los Angeles Police Department, the Orange County Fire Authority, and the United States Forest Service. LA City Fire asked for our assistance, and within 24 hours, ATF's National Response Team arrived on scene. The NRT, ATF's NRT, is an elite team comprised of certified fire investigators, electrical and fire protection engineers, chemists, accelerant detection canine teams, and other experts. We arrived within 24 hours and got to work with our partners. We processed hundreds of acres of damaged fire, examining every inch for the smallest clue. Over the course of the last 8 months, investigators conducted hundreds of interviews, including witnesses overseas, and pursued more than 200 leads. We collected more than 13,000 items of evidence, including fire debris, digital data, DNA samples, all analyzed by ATF's state-of-the-art forensic lab. Our team carried out 500 scientific tests, supported by ATF's Fire Research Lab, the nation's only large-scale fire science lab dedicated to fire investigations. More than 10 of our top engineers and support staff contributed to this laboratory analysis. This investigation has been documented over 300 ATF reports, including a 200-page report detailing the origin and cause of this investigation. ATF technical surveillance specialists were integral in reviewing approximately 1.5 million phone records and data extracted from digital evidence. And I highlight this because I know there's questions on the length that it took us to come to this conclusion. But we were reviewing a lot of evidence from one of the most catastrophic fires in the U.S. history. Through this extraordinary team effort, investigators determined that the Palisades fire reported on January 7th was caused by an intentionally set fire near a viewpoint along the Temescal Ridge Trail in Topanga State Park on January 1st. The fire was a holdover fire, meaning it was deeply seated in dense vegetation and roots and continued to burn undetected until catastrophic weather ensued, resulting in the Palisades fire. Render Nesh is now charged with setting the January 1 fire. We know this arrest cannot erase the pain or grief or losses endured, but we hope it is a step forward. It is proof that justice will not be forgotten, that our accountability will be pursued by ATF and our partners, no matter how complex the investigation and no matter how long it takes. To the families who lost so much, we hear you, we honor you, and we will continue to fight for you. The ATF established an email address for the victims and witnesses to contact ATF Victim Witnesses Assistance Program through the Palisades at atf.gov. Once again, I'll say that, the Palisades at atf.gov. Based on the information received, a regional victim witness specialist may contact you. That's my initial statement. I'm going to hand it over to the Chief of LA Police Department, Chief McDonald, and I will be open to questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Good morning, and thank you all for being here. I want to begin by thanking the U.S. Attorney's Office, our partners at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the dedicated men and women of our Robbery Homicide Division and Major Crimes Division. I also want to recognize and thank the Los Angeles City Fire Department and all of the investigators who came together to support this case. You look at the team standing here, and I couldn't be more proud of the work that was done throughout this investigation. It was extremely intensive and thorough, and the best of the best were working on it, and I'm very thankful for the partnership we enjoy with all of them all the time. The investigation into the Palisades fire of January 2025 was lengthy, complex, and as I mentioned, extremely thorough. Our detectives responded immediately to the initial incident and worked side by side with our partners at the Los Angeles Fire Department. And once the ATF's national response team took on the case, they led the investigation, and our detectives remained fully engaged as partners every step of the way with them. I'm proud of the professionalism and dedication shown by our detectives and the team who work collaboratively with our federal, state, and local partners. That teamwork ultimately led to the arrest of the suspect responsible for this devastating crime. The Palisades fire was a tragedy that caused enormous harm to the city of Los Angeles. But in the midst of that devastation, we saw something else. Communities coming together with law enforcement, supporting one another, and working through a very, very difficult time. This case is a reminder of the value of strong partnerships across every level of government. When we stand together, local, state, and federal, we are stronger, more effective, and better able to deliver justice for our communities. I'm deeply grateful to everyone who contributed to this investigation, and I look forward to continuing this strong spirit of collaboration as we work to keep Los Angeles safe. Thank you all. Now, turn it back over to U.S. Attorney Palisades. Thank you.
We will be unsealing the complaint if it hasn't been already. It has much more details than what we've gone over today in there, and that'll be available to you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And clip.
Okay, so there we have it. I thought that they were going to have questions, and I guess Fox News may have just cut it off. So give me one moment. I probably should have looked at that beforehand. Let me see if they have. See, I knew I should have went with the other one I had, and then I said, nah, I'll stay with Fox News. All right, let's see. I did have another one. Let's see, where is it? Here we go, ABC 7. Nope, that's the wrong one. Dang it. Here we go. Okay, so we'll just go to YouTube for a moment. Okay, so it looks like this is where, oops. Okay, so we're going to just go to YouTube for a second because I'm curious as to the questions, and I am going to try to find the complaint as well. All right, so this, there we go.
Okay, we'll start there. Yeah. I'm not going to get into his specific statements. I can tell you ATF has determined that the fire was ignited with an open flame. Yeah.
Did this gentleman ever live in the Palisades or any other connection to the Palisades, familiar with these trails, this area?
Yeah, he was familiar with this particular neighborhood, and he had a friend who was who lived in this neighborhood, so he knew this neighborhood.
He never specifically lived there?
He was a resident of Southern California. Do we know what city he lived in? Or... Okay. Yeah, he actually did live in Palisades, and he was familiar with the neighborhood in which this started.
We know that firework. Word arson?
Yes, it's arson. Yes.
We know that fireworks.
Okay, let me go here.
What was the protocol taken around the initial fire on New Year's Day? Was there precaution taken to try and make sure that fire was put out properly? And that's quite a
Yeah.
when that ended in the next fire.
Yeah, we're not going to get into the full fire response. I'll just tell you the fire department did respond, and they don't say they put out fires, they suppress the fire. So they use the best of their abilities at that time to suppress it. Like we said, there was dense vegetation. The fire went underground, and you know, I'm not a fire expert, but there's only so much apparently you can do about that. So it did smolder there until a week later, in which the winds picked up and reignited. So that's our understanding of it started.
Did he have some
let me go for it here.
So did he move to Florida after this? Or
He relocated, yes.
Can you say a little bit more about what he was doing there? If you had been living in Palisades, was he camping? Was he hiking? Was he?
He just finished an Uber drive. So he just dropped someone off in that vicinity on an Uber drive. He was an Uber driver. He dropped someone off. He was in this neighborhood, and he was, this is New Year's Eve, so it was around midnight, and he went up to this hilltop. And at some point up there, around 12 a.m., he ignited a fire.
Was it like a
Residents that we spoke with reported and had video of fireworks during that same period of time. Initially, the belief was it was a group of kids that were there. Are you saying that the suspect here potentially set off those fireworks? You saying open flame?
We have no evidence that any fireworks were set off in this area at the time the fire ignited.
Does he have prior criminal history, and has he been cooperative in this process?
Does he have his criminal history?
Remorse at all?
Does he have criminal history? Yeah, he does not have criminal history. We're not going to get into his specific statements. We are going to tell you, though, that he did speak to us and he made false statements. So that we will confirm.
What about motive? You do have something
Yeah.
on his phone that you share, any indication of what motive?
We're not going to get into motive right now because we're going to have to prove this case in court in front of a jury, and we don't want to get into that right now. We are laying out the information we have in the complaint. The evidence is based on, you could see some of the key evidence, including the fact that he was the only person in this location at the time this fire ignited. We have no other indication that any other person was there. There were no fireworks at the time. We have several cameras in the vicinity that are there designed to detect fires, and this fire was detected almost right away by those sensors. So there's no indication of fireworks or other things that would have started this. He was the only person there. You heard about this music video and song he would listen to, which had imagery of fires. And then do we have the image up? Are we having trouble with that? And you could see some of his thought process in the months leading up, where he was generating some really concerning images up on ChatGPT, which appears to show a dystopian city being burnt down. So more evidence will come out at trial, but we're not going to preview the entire case at this time. Yes, ma'am.
Is there an understanding that he relocated to Florida because he was aware that people might be looking for him?
We don't have any information of that.
It's very clear that this was a thorough investigation. The question is, obviously, so many things burned here, right? So how difficult was it to gather evidence? I mean, you're saying 13,000 items were gathered following 200 leads. I mean, can you?
Yeah, I'll let ATF answer that. There was a tremendous amount of work. I mean, we literally have like terabytes of evidence. So I'm going to let ATF answer the work that was done in this case, including the lab work.
Yeah, some further perspective on the investigative process. So I know there's been speculation of other ignition sources. And I just want to assure everyone, ATF did not identify this suspect and focus specifically on this suspect. We still utilize our scientific process. And part of the lengthy time that it took to go over these thousands of acres that were burnt is we literally had agents with our partners on their hands and knees crawling through fire debris. They're observing fire behavior patterns. They're flagging patterns. An example of that, fire will cause natural debris to twist and freeze in a position pointing to the origin. So looking at all those fire patterns, flagging those, ATF was able to zone to specifically get into the origin of where that fire started from. Once they dialed into the origin, using all the investigative techniques that they have, then they start really dialing into that very specific spot that fire was created. An example of a fire research lab, they collected buckets and buckets of debris, flammable materials, natural and otherwise, found within that area, sent it off to a fire research lab. They analyzed data from weather, including humidity, the exact temperature, the exact composition of those natural fuels found at that particular time, January 1st, at that particular time, recreated those environmental factors in our labs using their scientific process then tested different ignition sources. And that's where 500 tests were conducted at that lab. That review process is then looked at by a panel of our experts in a peer review process to see if the science matches up with the theory and the actual evidence that was collected. I know it was also broadcast, we broadcasted it as a public safety announcement. Back in spring, we went up and recreated a fire very safely with our partners with LA Fire, using butane and scientific process to create the fire behavior to see, and I'll tell you, to the extent of the scientific expertise that we went through, we recreated it in the exact lunar time that the fire started, meaning the exact size the moon was, and as close to the starlit environment that fire started. So we could recreate scientifically a fire and see how fixed surveillance points saw that fire as it developed from other evidence that we collected, both from witnesses' phones, fixed surveillance points, and other data. We were able to see how that fire behaved, how it grew, the size of that behavior and that fire, and the size that it would be for witnesses to see it and report it. We went through exhaustive efforts to look at potential ignition sources, whether they were fireworks, whether they were down power lines, or any other source of ignition. They went down those investigative paths with exhaustive length to either rule them in or rule them out. With clarity, we know this is an incendiary fire and that the subject that we arrested started it.
Would you say that this subject was obsessed with fire and wanted to do those images?
Once again, that speaks to motive. That's not an element that we need to meet. That will be addressed in the trial. And we do have evidence of that for trial.
What was the rap song?
I'm not going to go into those specifics. I'll just highlight, we're not making a probable cause arrest. This team up here feels that we have met beyond a reasonable doubt. We are confident that the burden of proof by the government on this presumed innocent person will be met in trial.
Based on the AI images that you did show, was it his intent to cause as much destruction to a town? Show the AI images for a reason, so it definitely leads to that impression. And I would just like that on the record.
I wish we could get into somebody's head, but we can't. People do evil things for whatever reason. And I'm not going to speculate or go into anything of that. Like, we have evidence of that will be addressed in trial, but evil people do evil things.
Let me answer her real quick.
Holdover fire confirmed. Can you just talk about the key evidence in determining that it was the Lockwood fire that reignited to become the Palisades fire, and that spring testing of the flame was to determine the start of the Lockman fire?
I'll let him answer that in a second. It is a French rap song. I don't speak French, so I'm not going to quote it, but it's a French song. It is in the complaint, and you'll be able to look it up there. We will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he intentionally started this fire and maliciously. That is what the statute that we charged him requires, and that is what we prove. I'll let you answer her question about the holdover fire. Let him answer.
Before he staked this place out?
Your question to a holdover fire. Same principle, same process that ATF went through, is obviously the burn scar and the fire from the initial January 1st Lockman fire was re-examined by our investigators, and with complete certainty, they were able to see from the same fire behaviors, from them crawling on their hands and knees, digging up roots, digging up all the evidence, supplying that fuel to the fire research lab. They were able, and also in collaboration of other data and other evidence. We have fixed surveillance points. We have witnesses that were up with their phones. We have a lot of different data that all concluded where this fire started, and the fire behavior from that origin, from that Lockman fire, was clearly established in the Palisades fire.
Were the passengers dropped off at home or at a distance? I'm just trying to get a sense of where he was on his path, but then led him up to that hillside.
He dropped passengers off within the residential area of that area.
2 more questions.
So right now, we've charged him on a criminal complaint. We have not determined all the charges he's going to face. We'll be presenting that evidence to a grand jury, and we will make decisions about additional charges at that time. So this is right now just a criminal complaint. We wanted to arrest him. We wanted to get him into custody, this will go to a grand jury shortly.
Last question. Did the suspect return back on January 7th? Was he in the area considering he lived in the Palisades during that period?
I don't know that we know that. Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that. He did go back the same night. So the night he started the fire, he left. As soon as he saw the fire trucks were headed to the location, he turned around and went back up there. And he took some video and watched them fight the fire.
The charges that you're talking
Last question.
about, just for January 1st, right? He has not been charged with anything for January 7th.
No, he is charged with starting a fire on January 1st, which is the fire that burned down the Palisades. It did take a week to reignite, but he is charged with starting the Palisades fire. He started it on January 1st.
But that's why you got that question about the people who lost their lives on January 7th. Why did you expect additional charges for that?
To include homicide.
This complaint covers that fire and the damages and deaths that were caused by that fire. As far as what additional charges he will face, we will make those determinations in the coming days. Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you. Press release is out.
All right.
Complaint is out.
So I did find, excuse me, the criminal complaint. So we are going to go through it. It is 26 pages long. And as you know, the U.S. attorney had said, there is more details in here. So it was filed on October 2nd, which I believe that was Friday. Oh, no, Thursday. So a week ago tomorrow. So his name is Jonathan Rinderknecht. He is from Florida. So criminal complaint by telephone or other reliable electronic means. I, the complainant in this case, state that the following is true to the best of my knowledge and belief on or about the dates of January 1st, 2025 through January 31st, 2025 in the County of Los Angeles and the Central District of California, defendant Rinderknecht violated and destruction of property by means of fire. And you know, Pookie and I had both said, like, the fact that the media seemed to not be able to understand the fact that, yes, he started the fire on January 1st. Firefighters were able to put that fire out, but it was able to rekindle sometime later, and that is what caused the Palisades to burn down. Actually, let me Google that. How long can a fire take to rekindle? Okay. So according to Google, it says a fire can take days, weeks, or even months to rekindle, as coals and smoldering embers can remain hot for an extended period, especially in underground root systems, or if not fully extinguished. So as the U.S. attorney said, it was underground in those root systems. The time it takes for a fire to reignite depends on factors such as the initial heat, the type and amount of unburned fuel, the presence of oxygen, and the effectiveness of the cooling process by the fire department. In a wildfire, the fire can continue to smolder in underground root systems and debris, potentially reigniting the surface weeks later. And then, you know, with the winds just kind of took it. I didn't know that either. So scary. Hey, Loving Life. Thanks for being here. I did see your comments when I got home from work today. Thank you so much. I do appreciate you. Okay, and I agree. This should be interesting. Okay, so offense description. Beginning on or about January 1st, 2025, and continuing through on or about January 31st, 2025, in LA County within the Central District of California, defendant Jonathan Rinderneck, also known as Jonathan Rinder and John Rinder, maliciously damaged and destroyed by means of fire, specifically the fire known as the Lockman Fire and Palisades Fire, a building and other real or personal property in whole or in part owned or possessed by or leased to the United States or any department or agency thereof or any institution or organization receiving federal financial assistance. Specifically, Rinderneck burned federal property within the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area, as well as property owned by the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority in California State Parks, to institutions or organizations receiving federal financial assistance. And I did write down, and I don't know, this is how I spelt it, the Topanga State Park, Topanga. So, I definitely probably spelt it wrong, or I'm saying it wrong. So, affidavit, I redacted, being duly sworn, declare and state as follows. I am a special agent with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF. I have been a special agent with ATF since 2009. As a special agent, I am authorized to investigate violations of the laws of the United States, and I have been involved with numerous criminal investigations involving violations of federal law. I am a law enforcement officer with authority to execute arrest and search warrants under the authority of the United States. As an ATF special agent, I have completed the Criminal Investigator Training Program and ATF Special Agent Basic Training at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia, where I received training in the investigation of federal crimes involving firearms, narcotics, arson, and explosives. My experience as a special agent includes, but is not limited to, conducting physical surveillance, interviewing witnesses and subjects, executing search and arrest warrants, and obtaining and analyzing digital and social media content and communications. I am currently assigned to the LA Field Division, Arson and Explosives Group, and am primarily responsible for the investigation of fire-related incidents. I have participated in numerous arrest and seizure warrants involving a variety of offenses, including violations pertaining to arson and explosives. I earned Certified Fire Investigator, CFI, credentials from ATF and the International Association of Arson Investigators in 2018, which required 2 years of continuous on-the-job training that covered a myriad of topics, all of which are related to fire and explosion investigations. My responsibilities include conducting complex post-fire and post-blaze investigations, identifying the origins and causes of fires, identifying post-blast evidence, authoring origin and cause reports, conducting interviews, serving search and seizure warrants, analyzing and interpreting data obtained from legal process, making arrests, and testifying in legal proceedings. I have received extensive training related to arson and explosive investigations, which includes the ability to identify explosive, incendiary, and destructive devices. Yeah, Evil Queen. I mean, this is just like, the amount of training that this guy or girl, could be a man or woman, has is pretty incredible. During my employment with ATF, I have participated in several investigations involving individuals who committed arson and in some cases used explosives or incendiary devices. These investigations have included a variety of investigative techniques, including interviews, obtaining information from other law enforcement agencies, court-authorized searches of physical locations, as well as electronic devices and data retrieved from them, and the interception of wire and electronic communications, examining and preserving physical evidence, conducting surveillance, and reviewing financial, telephone, and other third-party records. I have personally reviewed reports, documentation, and other evidence, observed scene photographs, and had conversations with employees at the ATF and other law enforcement agencies in regard to the investigation referred to below. I am familiar with the facts and circumstances of this investigation. 2. Purpose of affidavit. This affidavit is made in support of a criminal complaint against an arrest warrant for Jonathan Rinderneck, also known as Jonathan Rinder and John Rinder. I'm just going to refer to him as Jonathan. For violation of 18 U.S.C. subsection 844 F1, arson involving federal property and property owned by an organization receiving federal financial assistance. The facts set forth in this affidavit are based upon my personal observations, my training and experience, and information obtained from various law enforcement personnel and witnesses. This affidavit is intended to show merely that there is sufficient probable cause for the requested complaint and arrest warrant and does not purport to set forth all of my knowledge of or investigation into this matter. Unless specifically indicated otherwise, all conversations and statements described in this affidavit are related in substance and in part only, and all dates and times are on or about those indicated. Hey, citizen, how are you? 3. Summary of probable cause. A multi-agency investigation into the origin and cause of the massive Palisades fire in Los Angeles, California on January 7th, 2025 has determined that it was a, quote, holdover fire. An example, a continuation of the Lockman fire that began nearby early in the morning on January 1st, 2025. Although the LA City Fire Department, LAFD, quickly suppressed the Lockman fire on January 1st, unbeknownst to anyone, the fire continued to smolder and burn underground within the root structure of dense vegetation. On January 7th, heavy winds caused the underground fire to surface and spread above ground in what became the Palisades fire. The Palisades fire caused widespread damage in the Pacific Palisades area of Los Angeles. So 6 days later, the winds caused the underground fire to come back to the surface and just explode. The criminal investigation determined that the cause of the Lockman fire and Palisades fire was Jonathan. As explained below, there is probable cause to conclude that Jonathan maliciously set the Lockman fire just after midnight on January 1st, 2025. He started the fire on land owned by the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority, an organization that received federal funding. A week later, the same fire, then known as the Palisades fire, burned federal property. Hey, Murray, how are you? It is really scary, Evil Queen. I mean, honestly, I didn't know that fires could burn underground. I wasn't good at science. I had no clue that could happen. 4. Statement of probable cause. Based on my own participation in this investigation, my review of law enforcement reports and evidence from this investigation, and my discussions with law enforcement colleagues, I know the following. And I just wanted to check this. So this footnote in regards to the Palisades fire says, for ease of reference, this affidavit refers to the Lockman fire and Palisades fire using the individual fire names that initially were assigned to them. However, as explained herein, the Palisades fire was determined to be a holdover, an example, continuation of the Lockman fire, meaning that they were essentially the same fire that burned and or smoldered continuously. Okay, makes sense. A, the Lockman fire. Jonathan's proximity to the Lockman fire. On the evening of December 31st, 2024, Jonathan was working as a driver for Uber. 2 passengers that he drove on separate trips between 10:15 p.m. and 11:15 p.m. that night later told investigators that they remembered that Jonathan appeared agitated and angry. At approximately 11:28 p.m., Jonathan used his iPhone to access YouTube to listen to the song entitled Un Zdr Undi by the French artist Jasmine. I'm going to have to ask my brother-in-law about that. Let me just write that down. Un Zdr Unda. I have reviewed an English translation of the French lyrics for the song, and the theme of the song is despair and bitterness. During his interview on January 24th, 2025, Jonathan admitted he was fluent in French. He grew up in France. So just weeks after this fire, they interviewed this kid. Google records indicate that Jonathan had listened to the same song 9 times in the previous 4 days. The music video for the song shows the main character, Josman, lighting things on fire. Google records indicate that Jonathan had watched the music video 3 times in the previous 4 days. At approximately 11:34 p.m., Jonathan dropped off a passenger on Palisades Drive in the Pacific Palisades. As Jonathan later admitted in a recorded interview on January 24th, 2025, and as video footage from the neighborhood confirmed, he then continued driving alone eastbound up Palisades Drive toward the Skull Rock trailhead. Jonathan was very familiar with the area. He previously had lived in a house roughly 1 block away from the trailhead. Jonathan told investigators that he had hiked along the Temescal Ridge Trail many times. At approximately 11:38 p.m., Jonathan parked his car at the Skull Rock trailhead, as video footage confirms. After parking, he attempted to contact a former friend who had lived in the same nearby house where Jonathan had lived via Facebook Messenger, but did not connect. As Jonathan admitted in his recorded interview, he then walked up the trail, which comprised a series of concrete switchbacks and drainage ditches, to where the trail connected to the Temescal Ridge Trail. They keep saying trial. Is it trial or trail? Temescal Ridge Trail? They spelled it trial twice, and I thought it was a typo. A sign at the beginning of the trail stated danger and no fires or smoking. Jonathan then walked up a narrow dirt path to a small clearing at the top of the hill. The former friend of Jonathan who lived in the nearby house told investigators that he and Jonathan had spent a lot of time together at that small clearing. The clearing is sometimes referred to as the Hidden Buddha because it had a short, hollowed-out remnant stump from a wooden utility pole where people sometimes place small Buddha figurines. The first image below shows the trail that Jonathan used to walk up to the Hidden Buddha clearing. The second image is a photograph taken from the Hidden Buddha clearing looking south after the Lockman fire, but before the Palisades fire. The Hidden Buddha feature is visible on the left. Vegetation burned by the Lockman fire is visible beyond it. Okay, so here is the Hidden Buddha. And so this red is where Jonathan walked. So this is, what was that name of that trailhead? Temescal Ridge Trail. And so it says looking south. So south is here, and then the Lockman fire can be seen beyond it. Okay, so this is looking, so there's the stump, I would assume, right here. And this is looking down before. So this was before, so you can see where it was burnt right here. At approximately 11:47 p.m., Jonathan used his iPhone to take 2 photos in or near the Hidden Buddha clearing. In the videos, Jonathan panned around almost 360 degrees, capturing the view from the top of the hill. No fire or fireworks were visible. At approximately 11:54 p.m., Jonathan used his iPhone to again listen to the song entitled Uns der und the by French artist Josman. A number of environmental sensing platforms, which included cameras operated by the University of California at San Diego, UCSD, captured data and video 24 hours a day of the hillsides in the region in order to detect wildfires. The investigative team analyzed all of the relevant footage from those cameras. The first indication of the Lockman fire was captured at 12:01 a.m. on January 1st, 2025, from a camera approximately 4.7 miles away. So he listened to the song at 11:54. By 12:12, the first sighting of the fire was captured. Footage taken from that same camera 35 seconds earlier did not show a fire. A closer camera, approximately 0.2 of a mile away from the hidden Buddha clearing, first captured the glow of the fire at 12:21 a.m. Okay, so that's kind of weird. So a camera closer to it didn't capture the fire until 20 seconds later. Jonathan attempted to call 911 at approximately 12:31 a.m. The call did not go through, most likely because he was out of cell phone range. The GPS data obtained from Jonathan's iPhone carrier for that attempted call placed his iPhone slightly below the hidden Buddha clearing. Approximately 19 seconds later, at approximately 12:50 a.m., Jonathan attempted to call 911 again unsuccessfully. The GPS data for that attempted call was more precise and placed him in the hidden Buddha clearing. The UCSD video footage indicated that the fire grew quickly. Footage from a camera approximately 6.5 miles away first captured the fire at 12:11 a.m. Approximately 3 seconds later, at approximately 12:14 a.m., Jonathan again attempted, unsuccessfully, to call 911 again from the hidden Buddha clearing. 2 other cameras also captured footage of the growing fire at 12:13:20 a.m. and 12:13:37 a.m. At approximately 12:13:40 a.m., Jonathan again attempted, unsuccessfully, to call 911 again from the hidden Buddha clearing. The image below shows a still taken from footage from a UCSD camera approximately 0.2 of a mile away at 12:13:20 a.m. on January 1st, 2025. The bright spot in the upper left is the Lockman fire. Jonathan's parked car is visible down the hill to the right. To the right. Okay, so here's a bunch of vans. And here's the fire up here. It's crazy. And this was at 12:13:20. Jonathan then left the hidden Buddha clearing and headed down the hill toward his car using the same trail he had used to walk up the hill. GPS data obtained from Jonathan's iPhone carrier shows that he attempted to call 911 several more times while descending the hill. At approximately 12:17 a.m., Jonathan called 911 again, and for the first time, his call connected. GPS data for this call shows that he was almost at the bottom of the trail. On the call, Jonathan reported the fire. By that point, a local resident already had reported the fire to 911. During the call, Jonathan typed a question into the ChatGPT app on his iPhone asking, "Are you at fault if a fire is lit because of your cigarettes?" ChatGPT's response was yes, followed by an explanation. Jonathan then got into his car and drove away from the fire at around approximately 12:20 a.m. His movements were captured by camera footage from nearby residences. On his way down Palisades Drive, westbound, he passed fire engines driving up Palisades Drive, eastbound, responding to the fire. Jonathan turned around and followed the fire engines to the scene. Jonathan was driving at what appeared to be a high rate of speed. When Jonathan arrived back at the base of the hill, firefighters were beginning to respond to the Lockman fire. Jonathan later told investigators that he offered to help the firefighters fight the fire. Based on my training and experience, that would be highly unusual conduct. I would agree. Jonathan then walked back up the same trail that he had used to climb up and down the hill earlier that night in order to watch the fire and the firefighters. At approximately 1:02 a.m., Jonathan used his iPhone to take 4 short videos of the fire and firefighters from the same trail. That night, the LAFD, assisted by the LA County Fire Department, used water drops from aircraft and hose lines, as well as hand lines dug by LA County Fire Department crews to attack the fire. Suppression efforts continued during the day of January 1st, 2025, as firefighters continued to wet down areas within the fire perimeter. When the suppression efforts were over, the fire crews intentionally left fire hoses on site in case they needed to be redeployed. On January 2nd, 2025, LAFD personnel returned to the scene to collect the fire hoses. It appeared to them that the fire was fully extinguished. I know, Evil Queen, isn't it? It's amazing. They have his movements almost minute to minute. And, and that's why, and I think too, like during the press conference, they did talk so quickly that it was hard to see like what his movements were. But this definitely shows like he was there when it started. He left, turned around when he saw fire trucks, took videos showing he went back. I mean, this is pretty incredible that they were able to get all of this. 2, the origin and cause of the Lockman fire. After the Palisades fire, federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies conducted a comprehensive investigation into the Lockman fire and the Palisades fire under the leadership of the ATF's National Response Team. Investigators determined that the ignition area for the Lockman fire was an area located approximately 30 feet south of the hidden Buddha feature. The overall area for the ignition area was approximately 20 feet by 20 feet. The area does not include any hiking trails, but was accessible via a small depression or gully running downhill from the hidden Buddha clearing. Investigators obtained what is known as timing advance data from T-Mobile and AT&T to determine what cell phones were in that area during the relevant time frame. Footnote 2. Using this data, investigators were able to determine that no cell phones using those providers were in the vicinity of the hidden Buddha clearing during the relevant time period, other than Jonathan's iPhone. That finding corroborated, 1, Jonathan's statement to investigators at his January 24th interview that he did not see anyone else when he was at the top of the hill that night, and 2, video footage that showed only one person, presumably Jonathan, using the trail prior to the fire. The investigative team excluded other potential causes of the Lockman fire. For example, fireworks were excluded because, in pertinent part, 1, nobody, including Jonathan, saw fireworks in the vicinity of the Pacific Palisades prior to the start of the Lockman fire. Footnote 3. 2. None of the voluminous UCSD video footage captured evidence of fireworks in the area prior to the start of the Lockman fire. And 3. No evidence of fireworks was found in the origin area. B. Lightning was excluded because lightning strike data indicated that there were no strokes detected on December 31st, 2024 and January 1st, 2025 within a 100-kilometer radius of the Pacific Palisades. There you have it. Hey, Be Real, how are you? So footnote 2 was no relevant data was available from Verizon because Verizon's data from December 31st and January 1st was no longer available when this investigation began. And footnote 3, I am aware of media reports suggesting that fireworks were the cause of the Lockman fire. Based on my training and experience in this investigation, I believe that those reports were incorrect and the result of people hearing but not seeing fireworks in adjacent areas that night. All right. C. Power lines were excluded following an analysis of data from the LA Department of Water and Power. The investigation showed that no electrical utility infrastructure was located within the identified general and specific origin areas of the Lockman fire, and there was no failures associated with the electrical utility infrastructure in the area in the relevant time frame. D. Refraction of sunlight via glass was examined due to the presence of a glass bottle in broken glass in the general origin area. Refraction was excluded because the fire began at night, and weather data showed that the weather during the day of December 31st, 2024 was a combination of mist, haze, and mostly cloudy weather that was not conducive to a refraction fire. This is so interesting. Very thorough. E. Smoking was also examined as a possible ignition source due to Jonathan's statements that he sometimes smoked cigarettes in his presence in the hidden Buddha clearing, approximately 30 to 40 feet from the specific origin area at the time the fire was discovered. Footnote 4. Smoking was excluded as a cause. Although discarded cigarettes can cause wildfires, the weather conditions, including temperature, humidity, wind, and fuel moisture content on December 31st, 2024 to January 1st, 2025 were inconsistent with this theory, among other reasons. And footnote 4 says, during his interview on January 24th, 2025, Jonathan gave conflicting statements about whether he smoked cigarettes on the hillside that night. Very interesting. Conflicting statements. Well, did you or did you not? Upon having conducted a systematic examination of the fire scene, which resulted in the development, testing, and elimination of multiple hypotheses, and having excluded these and other potential causes, the investigative team determined that the cause of the Lockman fire was incendiary, i.e., an intentional ignition of fire in an area or under circumstances where or when there should not be a fire. The cause of the fire was determined to be the introduction of an open flame, likely a lighter, to a combustible material such as vegetation or paper. This determination was based on a number of factors, including A, as noted above, GPS data obtained from Jonathan's iPhone carrier for his 911 calls placed his iPhone within approximately 30 to 40 feet of the specific origin area at the time the fire was discovered. There is no evidence that anyone else was in that area at the time. As noted above, Jonathan told investigators that he did not see anyone else from the top of the hill that night, as was corroborated by the available timing advanced cell phone data. B. As noted above, the UCSD video footage indicated that the fire grew quickly. The first indication of a fire was captured at 12:01 a.m. on January 1st, 2025, from a camera approximately 4.7 miles away. The same camera platform captured a much larger glow from the fire a minute later at approximately 12:13:37 a.m. A different camera, approximately 2/10 of a mile away from the hidden Buddha, captured a large glow from the fire at 12:13:20 a.m. As noted above, GPS data showed that Jonathan was still in the hidden Buddha clearing at this time. The investigative team concluded that the rapid growth of the fire was consistent with a sudden conflagration and was inconsistent with a slow developing smoldering fire, such as can be caused by a discarded cigarette. Interesting. Very interesting. During his interview on January 24th, 2025, Jonathan told investigators correctly that the Lockman fire began on the hillside below and south of the hidden Buddha clearing. The investigators are not aware of any other way for Jonathan to have known this non-public information other than having witnessed the start of the fire. So that was one of his mistakes. He told investigators where the fire started when they hadn't told anyone where the fire started. During his January 24th interview, Jonathan's statements about his location upon discovering the Lockman fire were inconsistent with the geolocation data obtained from his iPhone carrier for his 911 calls. Jonathan repeatedly told investigators that he first saw the fire and first called 911 after he left the hidden Buddha clearing and walked down much of the trail toward his car. As noted above, the GPS data obtained from Jonathan's iPhone carrier showed that he was standing in the hidden Buddha clearing when he first called 911. The GPS data also showed that after Jonathan's first attempt to call 911 at approximately 12:31 a.m., he remained in the hidden Buddha clearing until at least 12:13:40 a.m. when he made his fourth attempt to call 911. This indicates that Jonathan watched the fire grow for over a minute while he remained in the hidden Buddha clearing. Additional evidence, in addition to what is described above, supports the conclusion that Jonathan maliciously started the Lockman fire. For example, during his interview on January 24th, 2025, investigators noticed that Jonathan's carotid artery would pulsate and become visible whenever they asked Jonathan a question about how the fire started or who started it. Based on my training and experience, that indicates that Jonathan was extremely anxious as to that issue. As noted above, Jonathan watched the fire grow for over a minute while he remained in the hidden Buddha clearing. Based on my training and experience, Jonathan's decision to watch the fire grow for over a minute from the hidden Buddha clearing, coupled with his subsequent statements to investigators that he was not in the hidden Buddha clearing when he first saw the fire, is consistent with arson. While Jonathan was descending the hill after the Lockman fire had begun on January 1st, 2025, he made a 3-minute screen recording on his iPhone, recording himself attempting to call 911 several times, and eventually connecting with 911 and asking ChatGPT, "Are you at fault if a fire is lit sick because of your cigarettes?" So he made a screen recording on his phone showing him calling 911. That's weird. Why would you screen record yourself or screen record showing you called 911 several times? That's weird. Based on my training and experience and this investigation, this indicates that Jonathan wanted to preserve evidence of himself trying to assist in the suppression of the fire, and he wanted to create evidence regarding a more innocent explanation for the cause of the fire. Very strange. Very strange. As noted above, after calling 911 and leaving the hillside on January 1st, 2025, and then seeing firefighters driving up Palisades Drive to respond to the fire, Jonathan turned around, followed the firefighters up to the fire, and filmed them responding to it. Based on my training and experience, arsonists sometimes call 911 to report the fires they have set, and arsonists sometimes like to watch firefighters respond to the fires that they have set. That is true, just like serial killers or murderers may return back to the scene of the crime so that they can see their handiwork. A witness who encountered Jonathan near the fire at around 1 a.m. on January 1st, 2025, told investigators that Jonathan, whom he did not know, told him that Jonathan had been down the hill at a house party when Jonathan first saw the fire. Based on this investigation, that was a false statement. House party, eh? Video footage from Jonathan's iPhone, time-stamped on the afternoon of December 31st, 2024, showed what appears to be a green barbecue-style lighter inside Jonathan's apartment. Investigators found what appeared to be the same lighter in the glove compartment of Jonathan's car when they searched it on January 24th, 2025. Subsequent laboratory testing confirmed that a sample of DNA found on the lighter from Jonathan's glove compartment matched a sample of Jonathan's DNA. Video footage from Jonathan's iPhone on January 1st, 2025 at approximately 1:44 a.m. showed that Jonathan's glove compartment was open while he was driving. During his January 24th interview, Jonathan admitted that he brought a lighter with him when he walked up to the hidden Buddha clearing, but he claimed that he could not remember what kind of lighter he brought. Give me 1 second. Okay. As noted above, 2 Uber passengers whom Jonathan provided rides to shortly before midnight on December 31st, 2024, remembered weeks later that Jonathan appeared agitated and angry that night. On November 1st, 2024, Jonathan asked the following prompt to ChatGPT. I am 28 years old, and this just happened. Maybe like 3 months ago or something. Like, the realization of all this. I literally burnt the Bible that I had. It felt amazing. I felt so liberated. On August 30th, 2024, Jonathan wrote to a family member, burned the Bible I had literally. So, but I don't understand, like, ChatGPT, I kind of get it, but why would you, maybe somebody in chat can answer this, why would you give ChatGPT that prompt? Like, is it like a journal thing where it like keeps your journal for you? Like, why would you, like, I don't understand why you would tell ChatGPT that. On July 11th, 2024, Jonathan provided the following prompt to ChatGPT. A dystopian painting divided into distinct parts that blend together seamlessly. On the far left, there is a burning forest. Next to it, a crowd of people is running away from the fire, leading to the middle. In the middle, hundreds of thousands of people in poverty are trying to get past In the middle, hundreds of thousands of people in poverty are trying to get past a gigantic gate with a big dollar sign on it. On the other side of the gate and the entire wall is a conglomerate of the richest people. They are chilling, watching the world burn down and watching the people struggle. They are laughing, enjoying themselves, and dancing. The scene is detailed and impactful, highlighting the stark contrast and the direct connection between the different parts of the world. In response, ChatGPT produced the following image. Sinner says, what an investigation to find that guy in Florida. Yeah. Being sarcastic, GPT was his friend. Yeah, I don't understand what, like, that first prompt, like, he wasn't asking ChatGPT to do anything. It was just like he was talking to it. Yeah, like a friend. Like, hey, ChatGPT, this is what's going on in my life today. That's insanity. Like, look at that. And I just noticed they're all different. Oh, no, wait, these two look the same. Oh, no, they're all different. They're all different photos. There's people watching. Here you got houses. Like, this is wild. 3, the destruction caused by the Lockman fire. The Lockman fire burned approximately 8 to 10 acres before being suppressed by the LAFD. The fire started on property owned by the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority and spread onto land owned by California State Parks, Topanga State Park. Okay, so I wrote it as Topanga. It's Topanga. I just had the letters mixed up. The MCRA is an organization that receives federal financial assistance. For example, over the past decade, the MRCA has received hundreds of thousands of dollars in federal funding and equipment from the National Park Service, the United States Forest Service, FEMA, and the California Fire Assistance Agreement. California State Parks and Topanga State Park, in particular, also receive federal financial assistance. For example, information provided by California State Parks shows that Topanga State Park has received tens of thousands of dollars in the last few years from FEMA. B, the Palisades fire. The Palisades fire was first reported by a witness who lived in the area. The witness called 911 and took a photograph of the fire from his backyard at approximately 10:27 a.m. on January 7th. The origin and cause of the Palisades fire. After extensive analysis, the investigative team determined that the specific origin area of the Palisades fire was a burned-out root structure at the base of dense vegetation approximately 20 feet south of the perimeter of the Lockman fire. That's crazy, 20 feet south of the perimeter. The perimeter was the hand line dug by LA County Fire Department crews on January 1st along the south containment line of the Lockman fire. The first image below is a photograph taken by a drone after the Lockman fire, but before the Palisades fire, looking north. The second image shows the perimeter of the Lockman fire in red and the specific origin areas of the Lockman fire and the Palisades fire. Okay, this should be interesting. So the first one, let me just look at that again. So the first image is a photograph taken by a drone after the Lockman fire, but before the Palisades fire, looking north. Okay, so this, I assume right here, where it's darker, is where the fire was. That's what I would assume. Because this looks like the trail right here. Okay, and then this is the Lockman fire origin. Okay, so there's that big house. Oh no, so the trail is over here. It's actually on the other side. So let me look for that big. Okay, so here's that big house. I think, right? No, that's not that big house. There's like a cul-de-sac. I'm trying to see where. It's hard to see. I'm trying to figure out where this would be, but this picture is it's hard to see where. So there's the Palisades fire origin. Let me zoom out a little bit. Wow. That's where it originated. It spread. They put it out, and then this is where the Palisades fire started. Let me see if I can zoom in. Oh boy. I guess I can. Okay, so you can definitely see the burn scar. Okay. So this is the origin, was about right here. Maybe like I'm going to say right here. Oh, there's that big house right here. This must be that big house. And so then the origin of the Palisades fire. Let's see, where's the bottom of the scar? So the bottom is like that. Okay. Which would have been around here. Right here. That's crazy to me. Yeah, I wish they would get rid of Top Chat. The investigative team determined that the Palisades fire was a holdover fire. Oh, I gotta zoom out a little bit. Defined as a fire that remains dormant for a considerable time. Investigators determined that during the Lockman fire, a firebrand became seated within the dense vegetation and continued to smolder and burn within the root structure of the vegetation. This underground burning was not visible to firefighters in the aftermath of the Lockman fire and was not visible to members of the public who visited the hillside after the Lockman fire. The strong sustained winds and even stronger wind gusts in the area on the morning of January 7th, 2025, created conditions in which the holdover fire from the Lockman fire ignited additional fuels and spread, becoming the Palisades fire. In determining that the Palisades fire was a holdover fire, the investigative team ruled out other potential causes of the Palisades fire. For example, potential causes such as campfires and smoking were excluded because the initial fire appeared to have been burning in the root system of dense vegetation. Moreover, there was no evidence to support human involvement on January 7th other than Jonathan's actions on January 1st in the start of the Palisades fire. Power lines were excluded as a potential cause following an analysis of data from LADWP. The investigation showed that no electrical utility infrastructure was located within the identified general and specific origin areas of the Palisades fire, and there were no failures associated with the electrical utility infrastructure in the area in the relevant time frame. Lightning was excluded because lightning strike data indicated that there were no strokes detected between December 31st, 2024 and January 8th, 2025 within a 100-kilometer radius of the Pacific Palisades. Refraction was excluded because no glass was identified in the specific origin area after an extensive search. 2. Federal interests affected by the Palisades fire. The Palisades fire burned federal land and destroyed federal property. For example, the fire burned approximately 202 acres of federal land known as the Camp 8 Historic District within the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area. Several buildings within the Camp 8 Historic District burned in the fire. The Palisades fire also burned buildings and other real property of organizations that received federal financial assistance. For example, the fire burned thousands of acres of property owned by the MRCA and Topanga State Park. As noted above, the MRCA and Topanga State Park both received federal financial assistance. Full containment of the Palisades fire was achieved on January 31st, 2025. 3 weeks it burned. Conclusion. For all the reasons described above, there is probable cause to believe that Jonathan Rinderneck has committed a violation of 18 USC subsection 844F1, arson involving federal property and property owned by an organization receiving federal financial assistance. And then their signature. There we have it. So they really talked about the federal aspect of it, the federal land. But this guy, I mean, he burned thousands of homes and buildings. And I'm curious if the local DAs can press charges against this guy now. Because I feel like he should be charged for every single dwelling that he damaged. I mean, what a jerk. What a jerk. And who knows? He could have done other things that nobody knows about. It's wild. Absolutely wild. So I will continue to keep an eye on Mr. Jonathan and anything that may come up. We are going to transition to the updates in the trial of the 3 correctional officers from Marcy Correctional who are accused of beating to death inmate Robert Brooks back in December of 2024. I only have, because cameras were not allowed, they were only allowed to do opening and closing statements. I do have this live blog that a local news station in Syracuse, well, out of Syracuse, has done. So we'll just go through and read this to see what happened in court today. And then we'll just do this each day that I go live. So thanks again, everyone, for being here. As I said, I didn't think this was going to be a long live, but I didn't think we'd be able to get the criminal complaint. So it was really interesting, though. I mean, this guy, there's a lot of evidence against him. There's a lot. And I'm sure there's a lot that they didn't put in the criminal complaint that they didn't necessarily need in order to get an arrest warrant. Okay. Yaga says, I really invested into listening to the prosecutor. He was succinct. He was straightforward. He was passionate. You could tell at times, at least for me, he was very emotional about what happened to Mr. Brooks. And then you get to the defense lawyers. The first lawyer, he was kind of a mess, but he was the most well-spoken, in my opinion. And then by the end, the last attorney, he was boring me. Like he was just deflecting onto what everyone else did instead of trying to say that he was going to be able to prove that his client did not have a hand in killing Robert Brooks. But we'll see how it goes. Okay, so this was 8 hours ago. Witness Christopher Marticello, Assistant Commissioner at New York State Department of Corrections. So it says at 10:13 a.m., Christopher Marticello took the stand as a witness in the Marcy prison trial. Okay, so I hate that they did this way because now I have to scroll up and then scroll back down. So Christopher Marticello, cross-examination from Kiefer's lawyer. So 10:20 a.m., Kiefer's lawyer asks him if at any point as a CO, he ever had to use force on an inmate, and he says yes, several times. The lawyer asks him whether it was to gain compliance or to injure the inmate. He answered with the goal of gaining compliance, never to injure. The lawyer then asked him if it was possible for the inmate to have injuries as a result. He answered yes. He then explains that if they are injured, they are treated right away. Marticello and Kiefer's defense lawyer did bicker back and forth at one point, with Marticello at one point during this bickering saying, "I can't answer your question if you keep talking over me. Can I continue my answer?" This goes on, and the judge weighs in and lets the defense lawyer know that the witness needs to finish his whole answer without getting interrupted. The lawyer then asks him several questions about whether and when force is used on an inmate if an inmate is being non-compliant. Marticello responds with yes, although it depends on the incarcerated individual and what they are doing at the moment. It all depends on the circumstances. Marticello reviews Directive 4944, which outlines the rules governing the use of force against inmates. The lawyer asks him if a CO were to tell an inmate who isn't restrained to stick their hands in their pockets, should they follow it? Marticello said yes, but he is not sure why that directive would be given. It seems very odd. That is very odd. So the lawyer, the lawyer for Kiefer, asked the commissioner, if you tell an inmate to put their hands in their pockets, should they do it? And the commissioner responded, not sure why that directive would be given. It's very odd. Kiefer's lawyer then asks him, when an inmate is being non-compliant with a CO, would a strike to the knee be okay? And Marticello said no. He then asks him about pepper spray and when that is okay to be used on an inmate when they are being non-compliant. Only when a CO believes such use is necessary. Marticello answers yes. Okay, so pepper spray could be used if the CO believes such use is necessary. The lawyer asks, is it used to incapacitate an individual? Marticello answers yes. The lawyer follows up with, is it permitted to use? Is it permitted to use, correct? Marticello says yes. The lawyer asks Marticello to review training documents that involve the use of force, duty to intervene, etc., that the COs go through as part of training. Every year, they review a video outlining these terms. The lawyer asks him to clarify that the terms in the form and video are correct, given that the COs have a duty to intervene in split-second decision when viewing the use of force on an inmate. Marticello answers yes. They move on to the body camera conversation. The lawyer asks him to clarify that the camera must be activated to turn on and another button must be hit to record and for audio to be on as well. Marticello says yes. The lawyer then asks what happened to the hours that were on the camera. Marticello says they're in evidence and that they saved all the camera video involved as evidence per protocol. The judge then gives the jury a 5-minute break. Nanny, yes. So Evil Queen is correct. They said about 2 weeks. All right, so that was the commissioner, part 1. Okay, so let's scroll up. Okay, so now cross-examination from Gallagher's lawyer. Matthew Gallagher's lawyer now takes the podium to cross-examine witness Christopher Marticello. Gallagher's defense lawyer wants to show the jury a 79-minute training video, but the judge is allowing only 43 seconds of the intended point part of the video. Can you imagine showing the jury a 79-minute training video of COs? The judge allowed 43 seconds. The lawyer asks him, is there a training for the use of force? Marticello says yes. The lawyer then asks if Gallagher went through this training. The prosecution objects to this, and Marticello does not answer. So the lawyer presents a signed document that indicates that Gallagher went through the training for the use of force. The lawyer asks if the duty to intervene training was recently adopted by DOCCS in the last 2 years, correct? Marticello answers that he does not recall. Later, the lawyer asks Marticello what the video specifically teaches. He answers with, "The summary is that they have the duty to intervene when deemed necessary by seeing excessive force used in a specific situation." The lawyer asks, "Did the training video show scenarios?" Marticello answers yes. The lawyer follows up with, "And then officers are tested on, right?" Marticello says no, it's a discussion, not a test. The lawyer argues there isn't an example showing what to do in specific situations for the duty to intervene. There is no scenario showing what the officer would do in this situation. The lawyers argue that they only show 43 seconds for the duty to intervene in the training videos for COs. The video then plays for the jury for the 43 seconds of the 79-minute training video that shows the duty to intervene section. The lawyer asks, "Shackles are used to prevent an inmate from using their legs, correct?" The prosecution objected to the question, but the judge overruled. Marticello answers, and he says they are used so that they can't take a full step while walking. It could be used to stop kicking if they are attempting to kick staff or another person. Later, on a different subject, the lawyer argues that inmate Brooks, if he didn't make parole, would have been in prison till 2028. This ends his cross-examination. How Brooks's parole has anything to do with this is beyond me. Nanny says, "I think CO are taught to bring them down by pressure points. First, I know someone who is a CO." I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to see the video, like the part of video that was shown, but that is not possible. Okay. So moving on. Okay, so Christopher Marticello. So this is probably why it's going to take longer than, well, I mean, 2 weeks isn't very long, but each lawyer for each defendant does their own cross-examination. Okay, so cross-examination from Kingsley's lawyer. Kingsley's lawyer now takes the podium to cross-examine witness Christopher Marticello. They go through what the use of force actually is. The lawyer gives examples and asks if the use of force is permitted. Marticello says the use of force should not be permitted before contacting their supervisor. The lawyer asks, "Is shackling considered the use of force?" Marticello responds with, "Depends on the situation. If it's to prevent them from moving, yes." At one point, Marticello adds, "Just because you are on the team does not give you the right to use force. You have to follow a directive." Lawyer asks, "Do you investigate contraband?" Marticello says yes. Lawyer asks, "What does that refer to?" Marticello says it's any unauthorized items, for example, drugs. Lawyer asks if it's common for shanks to be made in prisons. Marticello answers yes. Okay, so maybe he's getting into that Mr. Brooks had a shank? I don't know. Hey, Bushi, how are you? Long time no see. When they come from one prison to go to the... Oh, wait, I skipped a paragraph. My bad. Lawyer asks, when an inmate is leaving, there is a procedure that needs to be followed, right? Marticello says yes. He then explains the process of transporting an inmate to another prison. When they come from one prison to go to the next, they are to frisk the inmate for contraband, strip search, then get dressed in the inmate uniform. Then they are placed in restraints, leg, waist, hands, then escorted by a supervisor to the vehicle, and the trip takes place. When they arrive, they either go through the front or back gate. The sergeant of that facility is notified they are coming. Then they are brought to the clinic for medical evaluation. They can search the inmate again, but it isn't protocol. And they can go further with their searches only for probable cause. Lawyer asks, when an inmate is unshackled and the officer directs them to put their hands in their pockets, you said you didn't understand why. Marticello says, I believe that is a very uncommon and not good practice. Lawyer says, you know that is a common and practical practice to ask an inmate to put their hands in their pocket, right? Marticello responds with, do not tell me what I know. I believe that is an uncommon and not good practice. This ends the cross-examination. They break for lunch. Like, what is the deal with putting your hands in your pocket? And then the commissioner says, "Do not tell me what I know." Man. Okay, so trial resumes after lunch. Okay. All right, so the next witness, investigator Sarah Neerhoof, is questioned by the prosecution. Sarah Neerhoof is brought in as a witness and is questioned by the prosecution. The prosecution is asking her about her response to the Marcy case. The prosecution hands her a thumb drive with a video she recorded of her walkthrough of the crime scene on December 20th, 2024. They then show this video in the courtroom. Sarah explains the walkthrough of the video as it plays. The prosecution ends its questioning with Neerhoof. And mind you, Mr. Brooks died on December 9th, 2024. So this was a good over 2 weeks after they had time to clean up. Good point, Evil Queen. If you put your hands in your pocket, you can't block a blow. Okay, so Gallagher's lawyer. Okay, so Sarah is cross-examined by Gallagher's lawyer. The defense lawyer for Gallagher takes the podium to cross-examine Sarah Neerhoof. Asks her to specify areas in the video. This lawyer ends his questioning with Sarah. Okay. Sarah is cross-examined by Kiefer's lawyer. Lawyer asks, "Are there any fixed cameras in the infirmary room?" Sarah responds with, "I'm not sure." The lawyer then proceeds with asking her if she is aware of cameras in other areas of the facility. She is not. Lawyer asks, "Did you take any videos around 9 o'clock at night on December 20th, 2024? Sarah replies no. This lawyer ends the questioning. Kingsley's lawyer does not cross-examine Sarah. Okay. I mean, I think that's actually a good question to ask about whether or not she took videos around 9 o'clock that night, because that is when, between 9 and 9:30 is when Mr. Brooks was beaten to death. So I actually think that's a good question, so that you get the full, what the atmosphere would have been like at 9 o'clock at night. Yeah, it is a lot for jurors taken. Having 3 different lawyers asking 3 sets of questions. Okay, so then we get to nurse for Mohawk Correctional Facilities. Pamela Jennings is questioned by the prosecution. Pamela Jennings, nurse at Mohawk Correctional Facility. So Mohawk is where Mr. Brooks was being held prior to being transferred to Marcy. So they called the nurse to the stand. The prosecution asked her about the basics of her job. They ask her if an inmate can go to primary care without a correctional officer. She replies yes. The prosecution asks her about the day that Mr. Brooks was killed. Pamela says Mr. Brooks complained about pain in the right side of his eye. Prosecution asks, how did he appear? Pamela says he appeared to have trauma to the right side of his face. His right eye was red and swollen. Prosecution asks, how was his behavior? Pamela says he was calm and cooperative. Prosecution asks, were you concerned about his mental state? She says no. Prosecution asks, were you concerned he may have had any other trauma to the head that would impair him? She says no, he was very responsive. Prosecution asks, what did you do to treat him? She says, I examined him with a neurological assessment with a light for him to follow with his eye. Pamela's concern was just a fracture to the right eye. She then notified the other officers, and he was transported to Marcy for further assessment because she believed he, Brooks, needed emergency assessments. Prosecution ends their questioning with Pamela. That's interesting. She was concerned with a fracture to the right eye. She notified the other officers, and then he was transported to Marcy for further assessment. because she believed he needed emergency assessment. That is interesting to me. All right, so that was the prosecution. All right, so the nurse from Mohawk is cross-examined by Kingsley's defense attorney. The lawyer asks her if she goes through the same training as the COs, and she says no. He then asks her if they are ever left alone with an incarcerated individual while being in her care. She says no, the door is always open and at least one officer is always present. Lawyer asks, did you take off his clothes to examine his body? She says, I do not recall. Lawyer asks, but there was an obvious laceration to his face. She says he had bruising and swelling on the right side of his face, mostly toward his eye. It was very red and swollen. Lawyer asks, have you ever treated him before? She says no. Lawyer asks, did you look into his medical chart? This was objected to and sustained. Lawyer asks, he told you he had a headache and was dizzy? She says yes. Lawyer asks, did he tell you he already vomited? She said no. Lawyer asks, did he tell you he was nauseous? She says, after I evaluated him, he told me that. She then states, I placed Brooks in an exam room so he could rest while he waited to get transported. Lawyer asks, you took his vitals twice that morning? She says yes. Lawyer asks, his pulse rate dropped, correct? She says yes. Lawyer asks, from 92 to 55? She says yes. Lawyer asks, is that below normal? Oh, and that is below normal, yes? She says, slightly below, yes. Lawyer asks, did you give him Tylenol? She says, I asked him if he wanted it, and he said no because he was worried about vomiting. The defense lawyer ends their questioning with Pamela. I mean, pretty straightforward questions. All right, so the nurse is cross-examined by Gallagher's defense attorney. The lawyer asks her if she remembers Brooks. She said she doesn't remember specific characteristics, so he pulls up a picture of Brooks for the jury to see the injuries he received before arriving in Marcy. This defense lawyer ends their cross-examination of Pamela. Kiefer's lawyer only has one question for the nurse regarding his eye injury and asks if this could cause hemorrhaging, and she says yes, it could. Okay. All right, so then it looks like there was only one last witness today. Corrections Sergeant Davis Sayu. So prosecution asks, did you come in contact with Robert Brooks on December 9th? He replies, yes, I received a call from housing unit officer saying he was involved in an altercation and had injuries on his face. Okay, so this one is from Mohawk Correctional. So we're still at Mohawk Correctional. They ask him about his encounter with Brooks. They frisked him and found a sock and a locker combination lock in his pocket, which he was not written up for because the lock can be purchased at the commissary in the prison to use in certain areas. They asked him why they used restraints on him later, and he said it is protocol when moving an inmate, and they were moving him to the infirmary at Mohawk. Only the handcuffs were placed on Brooks. Prosecution asks, was he compliant? He replies, yes. The sergeant observed the medical care of Brooks at Mohawk facility. The prosecution asks, were you wearing a camera during this interaction, and did you turn it on and record? He replies, yes. Prosecution asks, why? He replies and says, it's policy. The video is then played in the courtroom. That is awesome to me that they had body camera of Mr. Brooks before he went to Marcy Correctional, because that will give the jury a huge insight as to what he looked like prior and what his demeanor was to what his demeanor and condition was after. All right. So next, Mr. Sayo is cross-examined by Kingsley's lawyer. This lawyer asks him more questions about his interaction with Brooks. The lawyer points out that Brooks should not have had the lock on him because it was in possession outside the allowed area. Asks the sergeant if that is correct, and he says yes. The lawyer then asks, can't a lock and a sock be used as a weapon? David responds with yes, it can be, but Brooks was not written up for it, and that the lock and sock were found separate. No further questions from this lawyer. David Say was cross-examined by Gallagher's lawyer. Gallagher shows him pictures of Brooks, or his lawyer shows him pictures of Brooks's injuries at Mohawk before arriving at Marcy. The lawyer asks why he was stripped down to his underwear for examination. David says so they can see any other injuries that may be relevant. The lawyer ended their questioning. That would be interesting too. What were Mr. Brooks' injuries on the rest of his body before arriving at Marcy? And then this looks like, yep, this is finally. David Sayu is cross-examined by Kiefer's lawyer. Kiefer's lawyer shows David a document he filled out stating and signing that he questioned and evaluated Brooks. Lawyer asks, was he coherent? David says yes. David also admitted that Brooks stated he was taking a flight to Puerto Rico at 12 p.m. What? Also written in the document that he was hearing voices, but that was assumed by the sergeant. Brooks never stated that he was. He just did that to be cautious, to remind everyone that he, Brooks, was coherent. This questioning ends. Okay, that's weird. Brooks stated he was taking a flight to Puerto Rico at 12 p.m. and that it was documented he was hearing voices, but that was assumed by the sergeant. Oh, so it was assumed that he was hearing voices. I know, that's a little confusing to me. That's a little confusing. And so then it says, oh, and then that's it. So that is what happened in court today. They had 3 separate witnesses. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. And I am at my 2 hours. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show one of, actually, no, I'm going to save them for tomorrow, because I feel like it would go better with the other stories I have. So as I said, I hadn't planned on reading the criminal complaint, but I think that was very insightful for us to hear and kind of see that timeline of what was his name? Rinderneck did. Oh, do you, Nanny? I remember them saying something like that yesterday about him taking a flight. I'm going to have to, I may listen to it again, because do you remember if it was, I'm assuming it was one of the defense attorneys that said that, because I don't remember the prosecutor saying that. I'll have to rewatch. One of the attorneys. Okay. I'm going to write a note. I'm going to watch that again. All right, y'all. So I'm going to end this here. Tomorrow, I do plan on going live. Like I said, there are so many stories I want to talk about, and it just seems like every day there's something else that, comes up related to stories that we've done prior, and, it just kind of gets stuck. So tomorrow, I promise that we will go over the statements made by one of the young girls that was killed in New York after subway surfing. She was 12. And I have those couple of animal stories, and then I'll put some other stories together as well. If you have any of it may have been the boring one, and that's why I tuned it out. That, I'm going to start with him. I'm going to start with him and just listen to him again and then listen to the other ones, because I was getting really bored and kind of like very distracted. But if you have any stories that you want me to cover, feel free to email me at headstonesandheadlines@gmail.com. I hope you have a great rest of your day, morning, night, wherever you may be. If you've made it this far on the replay, #replay, leave a comment below. And until next time, y'all, I will see you on the flip side.
You have one shot on stage, what you got to play? Generic drops for days, still the people rage. Am I not insane? Can you stop and explain why these drops are so lame? Is money buying you fame? I'm fucking on, I'm killing it with this song. You haters can sing along or go back where you belong. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with giving up, moving on. Cause I took your girl to prom, she can't help but sing this song. Comes off till the lights go out, till my legs give out. Can't shut my mouth till the smoke clears out. And my high progress, I'ma rip this shit till my bones collapse. Till the roof comes off, till the lights go out, till my legs give out. Can't shut my mouth till the smoke clears out. And my high progress, I'ma rip this shit till my bones collapse. So on like a light switch, flirting back. There's nothing wrong with the way that she's working that. I just want that body bad, come on baby, bring it back. I'm so gone, faded off a 30 rack. She's so on like a light switch, flirting back. There's nothing wrong with the way that she's working that. I just want that body bad, come on baby, bring it back. I rap with a passion, yeah, I got it in me. I've been waiting quite a long time for y'all to hear me. It's about damn time you put some stock into me. You're either sponsoring me or fucking bothering me. And the fact is, we just practice on this madness. That is why our status is like a canvas. Chances our advancement is enhancing, and this new expansion's like a mansion. Comes off till the lights go out, till my legs give out. Can't shut my mouth till the smoke clears out. And my high progress, I'ma rip this shit till my bones collapse. Till the roof comes off, till the lights go out, till my legs give out. Can't shut my mouth till the smoke clears out. And my high progress, I'ma rip this shit till my bones collapse.